Welcome to season 4 of the To Health With That podcast, where we break up big health topics into small bites. I'm your host, naturopathic Dr. Amy Neuzil, and this season we'll dive into something we are all familiar with: fatigue. What is it? Why does it happen? Most importantly, how can we fix it outside of this? Coffee. Also, you can enjoy the video version of this podcast on YouTube. The channel is at To Health With That. Can't wait to see you there.
This week, let's talk about the 4 stages of adrenal fatigue. So, adrenal fatigue is a pervasive part of modern society, mostly because we have constant triggers for fight or flight behavior, no actual fighting or fleeing that would help us physiologically rebalance those hormones with physical activity, and the constant, ever increasing need for cortisol to step in and try and restore that balance. It is absolutely no wonder that we're all exhausted all the time and getting worse by the minute. In order to keep your adrenals healthy, it's imperative to actually know the warning signs of adrenal fatigue, which means understanding where, if anywhere, you fit in these 4 stages. Everyone knows when they're completely burned out, but we want to catch it before you get to that place because rock bottom is no fun. So let's look at adrenal fatigue in terms of these 4 stages. Adrenal fatigue, stage 1, crushing it. This stage of adrenal fatigue is awesome, actually. It's really hard to spot as a problem because it feels like you are just killing it at life. You're working long hours and keeping up, and you're highly productive, and you still have energy for your own social life and hobbies and all of the things because you are a rock star. The reason you feel like a rock star right now is because your adrenals have gone into high cortisol mode. They are reacting as though you're in a long-term siege sort of situation. And you've got to get through it because your life is at stake. So that is where your adrenals are right now. You can still sleep, but you can push through without as much sleep because, let's face it, you are getting up extra early to work just a little harder, and you're staying up late because you don't want to miss out on anything. So in this phase, your cortisol is probably within the normal curve and often kind of at the high end of the normal curve. The curve is still mostly a normal shape, although sometimes there's an early morning spike to help you with that early morning extra work time waking up. This phase feels completely amazing. You're living your dreams. You are killing it. Too bad it's going to end in tears. Stage 2, tired but wired. Does that ring a bell? This stage is the best warning sign we have because absolutely no one is worried about their adrenals when they're killing it. But it starts to become apparent in this stage that there's something not quite right. You are definitely fatigued. The fatigue is starting. You're tired, more tired than you have been. You're definitely not crushing it anymore. And you can tell you're tired, but you've been so jacked up for months or even years of overperforming that you can't quite slow down. So you're keeping up, maybe even feeling a bit jittery or jumpy, like you can't slow down even if you try. Mental feelings of anxiety could be on the rise, and it could be more of a problem than usual. So having anxiety about things you never used to, like driving the car over the overpass or whatever. You maybe feel a bit hollowed out, but you can't seem to make yourself stop. This is the best time to catch adrenal fatigue. And if you stop it here before it gets desperate, then it's way easier to restore your health. In this stage, your cortisol is still mostly within normal, but the curve is starting to kind of flatten. Like the high part where you're supposed to have the most energy, like for the morning when you're waking up, is a little lower than it should be. And the low part where you're supposed to be going to sleep at night is a little higher than it should be. But it's still there. It's still okay. The curve is happening. But again, tired but wired, right? Then stage 3, you're burning down. Mm-mm. By this time, you know something's going wrong, right? You're just keep getting more tired, less focused, more anxious, and ironically, your sleep is struggling. It's really hard to get out of bed and get going in the morning, and you start noticing that you're getting sick more often. You don't have the resilience that you normally have. And if you have a really high stress day, it feels like the next day has to be like a recovery day. You're just not functioning in the way you used to be, but you can still remember a time when you were killing it. This is usually where people start to look around for a practitioner or go to the primary care doc and say something's wrong. And as it happens, something is wrong, and it's been wrong for a while. So in this phase, your cortisol curve is even flatter than before, and the whole thing is sinking, right? Your adrenals just can't keep it that high anymore. So morning cortisol, when it's supposed to be high so you can wake up and function, is just kind of low. So waking up is hard, right? Nighttime cortisol, when it's supposed to be low so you get refreshing sleep, is medium-ish. And so sleep isn't great, right? Like sleep is hard too. Anxiety's high overnight. You may even wake up in the night with some panic, something like that. And it just gets worse. And then by the time you reach stage 4, which is burned out, yeah, you're maybe not functioning anymore. So this is often when you actually get enough medical opinions to find out you have adrenal fatigue. Yay. You feel like you're never fully awake and never fully asleep because let's face it, your adrenals are the things that actually help you differentiate between those states most of the time. In this phase, it's difficult or impossible to keep up with normal life. If you can still work, and that's an if, you're hanging on by your fingernails and often you have to take a medical leave or just quit your job at this point. If you do have to push yourself hard for a day, and keep in mind that at this phase, pushing yourself hard might look like having a meeting and going to the grocery store, then it flattens you. They can take days to recover. You could be getting sick all the time, although it's hard to tell because anytime you push yourself a little bit too hard, you feel sick anyway. This is the hardest and slowest place to crawl back from because you are truly depleted at this point. So knowing where you are in the process can actually help you begin to back out and heal your adrenals because once you get too far in, it just becomes so much harder, right? So if you can stop at the tired but wired phase, do it, my friend. Thank you so much for listening today. Don't forget to like or subscribe or thumbs up or download or do whatever. And also, think about telling a friend who might need this information because, that's how podcasts spread around. And your friend might thank you for it. Next episode, we will talk about nourishing and healing your adrenals and the best way to do that without using actual adrenal hormones because that really should be supervised by a doctor. Thanks for being here.